In today's video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a video turntable of your finished Blender model. Now the Blender model you're looking at right now is known as a Boeing concept parasite jet, which they developed in the 1970s. Okay, let me just show you a closer look of the model itself. So this model I took a couple of hours to finish modeling, and using conventional mesh modeling techniques. Okay, and you can see these are the drawings which I've used for reference. Okay, so a little information about this model, or rather this plane itself. It was developed by Boeing in the 70s, early 70s, as a concept jet to be used as a micro parasite jet for their Boeing 747. Okay, here's the internet article by itself. So here's the plane itself, and here's the image of how the plane would be stored inside a 747. Okay, basically the 747 will act as a aircraft carrier. So you can see a couple of jets stowed away inside the 747. Quite an interesting subject and very unique. So it's under the subject of parasite fighters, the Boeing microfighter. So I'll probably come out with a tutorial on how to model this jet. Okay, but essentially I used the same techniques which I used to model this jet in my previous video tutorials. But today I'm going to show you this instead, how to set up a camera so that it travels along a path and shows you a turntable. Okay, so let me just exit from this one. And we'll just start off with this model here. So let me just hide these reference, move them to a different layer. Okay, so now we have a default camera. Okay, if you press a 0 on your numpad, it will jump to this camera. Now we do not want to use the default camera. We want to create a brand new camera so that it travels, so we can get it to travel around the model itself. So let me just expand this window here. Okay, and the first thing you want to do is you want to create a path, a circular path that runs across your model. So I'm going to press Shift A and then create curve circle, and then I'm just going to go to edit mode, press S and then scale it up. Okay, and then press tab again. Okay, whether or not you go in edit mode to scale it doesn't really matter. Okay, but it's just a habit of mine. And in order to make sure that your model is lit consistently all the way around, you have to ensure that there are sufficient lights all around the model. So I got a hemi light right underneath the model, okay, and then I got a normal point light on top. So I'm going to duplicate another hemi light on the other side of this model. Okay, press Shift D to duplicate, and then I'm going to rotate it, pointing the same direction. Press G, grab it, and then point it down here. And I also want to reduce the intensity of this light. Okay, not too much. Okay, and then perhaps I want to add another point light over on the other side. Shift D, duplicate it. Okay, bring it to the other side of the model here. And then reduce the intensity down as well. Okay, in order to make the lighting more interesting, you might want to change the color a bit. Alright, let me just give it a warm yellowish tone. Okay, and alright, so now our lights are positioned already. I got some default materials which I've created and have applied. Alright, and let me just hide the wires for a change. Okay, so you can see what's it like. You can also turn on to textured mode, and you can monitor how the light behaves by moving the lights around. Alright, so that you can actually observe how the light affects the model. Okay, you can move the point light around, and you can see where the highlights appear. Alright, so this point light, I want it to be a little bit stronger, so click on the tab here, the lights object data, and then just pump up the brightness a bit. Okay, so now it's looking quite alright. Okay, so now let's create another camera. So I'm going to press Shift A and then create camera. And then this is a new camera which I've created. and I'm just gonna press G and then just grab it aside, put it aside for the time being. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to create an empty. Okay, press Shift A and create an empty, and just move the empty aside as well. Okay, so this is how I want you guys to parent your turntable camera. So select the camera which you have just created, okay, and then you can try to move it as close to the empty as possible, but the best way would be to use the Shift S snapping method. So first I will select the empty, then press Shift S and then say cursor to selected, so the cursor will jump to the empty. Then right mouse click and select the newly created camera, then press Shift S, selected to cursor. So now it is aligned exactly to the empty. So select the camera. Okay, the camera is already selected. Hold down to Shift and then right click select the empty, and then press Ctrl P to parent it to the object. So that when I select the empty now by right mouse clicking on it, press G and then the camera will follow it. Okay, so now I want the empty to travel around this Bezier circle path that I've created. So okay, let me just move this down a bit. So the step is, this is how you do it. Select the Bezier, select the empty, then hold down the Shift and right mouse click and select the Bezier circle curve, and then press Ctrl P and then choose the option follow path. Okay, when you click on follow path, you notice that right now it defaults the number of frames to 100. Okay, that means if I were to drag along the timeline here, you'll notice that the empty will travel exactly 100 frames to travel around the circular path. And if you look carefully here, once you parent it close to the edge, there's a dotted line that shows the parent-child relationship. So let me just go to the top view by pressing 7 on your number pad. I'm going to right mouse click and select the empty, and I'm just going to position right until it's at the edge of the path. Alright, and at this stage you can select your camera and you can press R to rotate it until it points right at the airplane itself. So with the camera now selected, with the new camera selected, you want to make this camera as the default rendering camera. So with the camera selected, go to View, Cameras, and then Set Active Object as Camera. So now you're looking through the new camera. Okay, so this is the essentially the height of what your camera is looking at. Okay, let me just split another view, and I'm gonna just middle mouse click and drag so that you go back to perspective view. Right mouse click and then select the path itself. You actually move it up and down to control where the camera is looking at. But another better way would be to restrict, or rather force the camera to be pointing at the model itself all the time. To do that, okay, select the camera, click on the chain icon here, object constraints here, add a constraint called track to. Now with this constraint, you'll be able to force your camera to look at whichever object you specify it to. And right now the target is empty, so you can click on the empty space here and then specify the airplane. Now this airplane model started off as a cylinder, so I'm going to choose cylinder. And you notice that now the camera is pointing in a very odd way. Okay, it's pointing downwards, not at the camera itself. Okay, so there are a couple of settings you need to do over here. You need to change, okay, from world space, you can try changing this to local space, and then clicking on the up as the y-axis, and then you can click on any of these axes, right, until your the target appears. And now if you drag the timeline, you'll notice that the camera is now always pointing at the model. And if I were to move the model up and down, okay, right now it's not moving anything because the constraints which I did for the camera is not right. So let me just move the model down a little bit, and then I'm going to try -Z. Okay, so that's it. So you need to turn on -Z, and if I move this up and down, you notice that now when I move the model up and down, the camera is always tracking it. Okay, so I'm going to show you the settings again. So make sure your camera is transforming from world space to local space. The up change to the y-axis, and target to the -z-axis, and make sure you specify the target for the camera. Okay, so now the setup is essentially done. Okay, you can actually play back and then watch the animation happening. Okay, let me just start from beginning, and you just hit play, and you'll see the timeline, or rather the turntable happening. But you have a limitation here. You notice that it only runs for 100 frames. Now, how do you lengthen the animation? So that's where you need to change the animation properties of your path animation. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, I'm going to split this window into two by clicking on the corner tab here. And I'm going to change one of the windows into a graph editor. Okay, so now with the graph editor shown, you select the curve itself. And you will notice that, okay, let me press home key to zoom to fit. You'll notice that there is actually a animation curve here. But unfortunately, we can't change it, okay, or we can't add any keyframes to it. If I try to add keyframes by holding down the control and left mouse click on it, it will show you remove F modifiers from the F curves to add keyframes. So what you need to do is you need to break the modifier that was already assigned by opening up the cross button here. Okay, you can see that there's a modifier that's being added to the path animation here. So you need to disable this by turning it off by deleting it, this modifier. So I'm going to delete it. So now it's empty, and in fact now there's no more animation. So you can start at frame 1, and then you can hold down to control and then left mouse click to insert a key. Okay, once you've done that, you can see here it is inserted at frame 1.45. Let me change it to frame 1, and the value I'm going to change it to 1 as well. Alright, so that is the first keyframe, and you notice that along the timeline there's a yellow line that specifies a keyframe. Let me open up another window to show you what this is all about. This window called the dope sheet. Okay, so the dope sheet will shows you this diamond shape here. This shows you the keyframes as well. So that means that there is a keyframe. That means there's a change in animation right at this frame. Okay, so right now I'm going to scrub forward. Okay, 200 frames. Let's say I want to make my animation last for 200 frames. And then I'm going to press Control and left mouse click to add another keyframe. And then I'm going to raise this value. Okay, now but you notice that now you got two keyframes and they have handles. So I'm just gonna box select one of them and press A to deselect, and press B, left mouse click, and box select one of them, and then you can press G to move the curve up. Alright, and I can right mouse click on this key, this point here. Okay, and then I'm gonna specify this key is at frame 200. Value I want it to be at okay, let's put it at 200 as well. Okay, so but if you look carefully here, if I scrub the timeline, you notice that the animation still ends at frame 100. So what's happening here? Okay, we need to change another set of properties. That is, we have to click on the object data. Okay, we're going to change the frames to 200. The evaluation time, we're going to change it to 200 as well. So this will force the whole animations to stretch all the way to 200 frames. Okay, but let's look at this curve here. This curve is very unique, and basically you can see how the animation behavior by studying the curve. Now observe the animation, or how the camera rotates in this view here. When I hit play, it's going to slowly start, then it's going to move at a constant speed, and then gradually it's going to slow down. Okay, and then because right now we set our animation, or rather the playback timeline, to 250 frames, there's going to be a pause for 50 frames. So let me just stop here. The end frame, I'm going to put it at 200. Alright, and let's hit playback again. And let's observe the animation. Okay, so it's now going constant speed, and then it's going to gradually slow down. And then it's going to start again. Okay, so now this kind of animation for turntable might not be desirable. So normally you want to see a constant spinning of the camera. Okay, so I'm going to select the keys here, one of the keys here. I'm going to press V, okay, to change the handle type. I'm going to change it to vector so that there's a straight line here. The first key as well, I'm going to right mouse click on it, press V, and then change it to vector as well. So giving it a vector property means that it doesn't have any of the acceleration and deceleration behaviors due to that the curve just now. Alright, so now if I play back, you can see that the animation is now more constant. Okay, the camera will move at a constant speed, and there will be no pause at all. There will no slowing down. So once you're happy with this, you can reposition the camera a bit, okay, simply by just selecting the curve and then just moving it up and down until your subject is at the center. So let me move to a side view, and then you can even scale the curve, okay, so that it moves closer. And I'm going to press F12 to do a test render. Okay, so this side looks good. Okay, I'm going to scrub the timeline. I'm going to change this back to 3D view again. I'm going to scrub the timeline to the other side, and then I'm going to press F12 to do another render. Okay, this one looks a bit dark, so I'm going to increase the light on the other side. Okay, this point light here, I'm just going to increase the energy up a little bit. Press F12 again to render. Okay, it's not showing up very nice. Okay, because it's too far away, perhaps. I'm going to bring it up higher. And then I'm going to press render again. Okay, maybe this one needs a little bit higher strength. Okay, just a little bit more. Okay, it doesn't seem to be. Okay, let me just change the angle a little bit. Okay, anyway, this is good enough for me. Okay, so once you have your light set up and if you're happy with it, you are now ready to render your turntable. Okay, so to do that, right, click on the camera icon here. Because we already set this camera, the newly created camera, as the default camera, it's going to render whatever the default camera sees. Alright, so let's take a close look at this menu here. Now we want to render an animation, so we are not rendering a still image. Okay, the first thing we need to set is our render presets. That means how big is your video. Now, as a rule of thumb for most video image sizes, make sure that you can divide the number by 16, okay, for the width and height, because a lot of video codecs, right, would not accept weird number combinations. Alright, so I'll suggest you try rendering at HDTV 720p if your computer is fast enough. Okay, so it'll give you all the size settings. Alright, we're going to render from frame 1 to 200 and every frame at 100% scale. Okay, for now we just leave everything as default. But right now here's the output, like where are you going to save your file? Okay, and we are not rendering it as still images. Well, if you are doing an animation, you can render it as a still image and assemble it using another software like Virtual Dub or Premiere. Okay, but if you're rendering straight to a video, you can actually choose the option and change it as a movie. Okay, and then I'm going to choose H.264. Those of you who are using Macintosh or Linux might have slightly different settings. For Macs, you might Macintosh. Those people using Macintosh, you might be able to render straight into a MOV. Okay, so I'm going to render into a H.264, which is a type of compressed MPEG-4 format. Okay, quite common. So I'm going to click on H.264, and I'm going to specify where I'm going to save the file. So I'm going to click on this folder icon here. Alright, and then I'm going to change the directory and then go to the location of where I want to save the video. So I call it Boeing Parasite Jet Turntable, and then click on Accept. Okay, once you've done that, then you can click on the animation button here. So when you click on it, Then you'll start to render frame by frame, and the software will assemble the video for you. Okay, I already done one already, so I'm gonna kill this animation, and I'm gonna show you the result. Okay, so this is the finished result. Okay, so it's a 200 frame video at about 24 frames per second. So that will be about 8 seconds. Okay, so you can see the turntable is very smooth. Okay, and essentially this is how you create a turntable video. Okay, using Blender. Okay, so maybe for this jet, I will reserve this modeling of this jet for another tutorial on another day. So hopefully you can follow this tutorial and try to create your first turntable animation for your models. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and keep on subscribing, and I'll try to come up with new videos in the future. Thanks for watching.